Hey everyone, and welcome to our first lesson on write, rinse, and repeat. We're going to look at alliteration. Now, just before we begin and talk about alliteration, let me just say that a lot of times people think that poetry is all about the words at the end of the lines rhyming, and that's a lot to do with poetry. But I think more and more we're seeing modern forms of poetry that really have nothing to do with end rhymes, and we see a lot more techniques in there. And also, the theme of this course and the idea of this course is that we're learning what we can do in poetry and then incorporating in our other writing. And typically when you're writing, a letter or a blog or something like that, you're not rhyming, right? But you are repeating sounds. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to be building on repeating sounds. We're beginning here with alliteration. Alliteration may be probably one of the more famous ideas of sound repetition, but it's the occurrence of the same letter or sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. So even in the statement here, we see closely connected. That's an example of alliteration because both words begin with the k sound. Again, it's not the letter that necessarily makes it alliteration, it's the sound. So you may have something like a colorful kite, even though colorful begins with a C, kite begins with a K, it's the k sound, colorful kite. And it's the beginning of those words, the beginning sounds of those words that makes this alliteration. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a look at a poem, and that's what we're going to do throughout this course. We're going to look at a poem, see how the masters used these techniques, and then we're going to incorporate in our own writing. So the first poem that we're going to look at is I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud by William Wordsworth. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft when on my couch I lie in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye which is the bliss of solitude. And when my heart with pleasure fills and dances on with the daffodils. So this poem, of course, has end rhyme, right? We see words like at the beginning, we see here cloud and crowd. Those rhyme, and hills and daffodils. So there is end rhyme that's happening. But there's also other techniques. And the first technique we're going to look at as a poet is we're going to look at alliteration, the beginning sounds of words that match other words. Now, why do we rhyme? Why do we have repetition? Well, repetition does a number of things. It moves the poem along. It keeps it light. It keeps it moving. So, I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. But the other thing that it does is it's tying ideas together. So it's moving this poem along by just tying these words together. So it's kind of creating sort of like chain links and bringing these thoughts into a cohesive thought. It's the same thing with alliteration and these other word sounds is we're tying ideas throughout the poem. So let's begin by looking at the w sound. I wandered, the w sound. I'd wandered lonely as a cloud. Where else do we see the w sound? We see it here, when. Okay, and we're just going to kind of go through, I'm going to look through real quick. Okay, and the waves beside them danced. What wealth. There we have two w sounds, also waves over here. So we have the w sounds going throughout. For oft, when, on my couch I lie, which, and then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils. So great, we see the w sound. Well, what's the point of that? What's the point of the w sound? Well, the w sound helps tie this poem together and bring together the cohesiveness of this poetry, so that we're bringing all of these thoughts in together in the same poem. Let's take another sound. Let's look at the d sound. This is throughout, so we see daffodils, dancing, We're looking along, dance, there we go. And danced again. We see that repetition of the word danced. Vacant or and dances with the daffodils. So it's interesting, the word dance is repeated. We're going to talk about actual word repetition. Right now we're talking about sound repetition. But we see dance throughout. Well, guess what that does? That "d" sound in the word dance ties this poem together. So again, we're bringing ideas, we're tying things together. Maybe why don't we look at one more sound, and that's the "k" sound, the "k" sound. So cloud, continuous, and I may be missing some, and you're looking at this, you're like, oh, you missed a word. That's okay. You see it. Couch. Okay. And again, the "k" sound is tying together. So we have, we see, and I've only gone over through, actually, let's do one more, what the heck. Let's go over the "g" sound. Golden, glance, glee, gazed, "g" sound. And yeah, all right, that's probably good. So again, "g" sound is being weaved throughout. The "w" sound is being weaved throughout. The "d" sound is being, it looks like kind of John Madden writing over this poem, the "k" sound. But you see it, when you look at football, like you watch the play happen and it gets broken down and you see the X's and the zeros and look what he did this and look what he did. That's exactly what we're doing in poetry. And when we look at William Wordsworth's poem, we see, wow, there's a lot more happening than just end rhyme like cloud, crowd, hills, daffodils, trees, breeze. There's more to this. And that's what makes it beautiful. So before we even get to the end rhyme, let's work on alliteration. And let's learn how to, like a sewer is going to sew thread to tie together ideas. We're using alliteration to tie together ideas as well. Let's take a look at one more poem and talk about alliteration. We're going to look at Holy Sonnet 14 by John Donne. And I'll just stop here and say that as we look through these poems, we may come back to some of these poems because there's a lot more going on, obviously, than just alliteration, but we're pointing out certain things. So this is probably one of my favorite sonnets, certainly by John Donne. It's called Batter My Heart, Three-Person God, or Holy Sonnet number 14. It goes like this. Batter my heart, three-person God, for you as yet but knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend, that I may rise and stand, o'erthrow me and bend, your force to break, blow, burn, and make me new. I, like an usurped town to another do, labor to admit you, but owe to no end. Reason your viceroy in me should defend, but is captive and proves weak or untrue. Yet dearly I love you, and would be loved fain, but am betrothed unto your enemy. Divorce me, untie, or break that knot again. Take me to you, imprison me, for I, except you enthrall me, never shall be free, nor ever chaste, except you ravish me. This is just a stunning poem. And there's so many things happening in this poem. There's meter, there's end rhyme, but I want to focus on alliteration because it does something really powerful here. And we talked about the difference between voiced and unvoiced consonant. Voiced or unvoiced sound. So b, if k is unvoiced, you don't have a tone behind it. W, we can make a sound behind that. And that makes a difference. That's a choice we make in our poetry. We talked about these choices, making choices in our poetry, the difference between lightning and lightning bugs. We're making choices. And when we make that b sound or that k sound, it's a much harder sound. And we see this right away in Holy Sonnet 14. John Donne begins with a b sound. Batter my heart, three-person God. And right away, we get a b. This is a tough poem. This idea that we want God, beat me up, God. Take me captive because I'm too weak. My flesh is too carnal. Take me, ravish me. I'm not chaste unless you ravish me. What an amazing line that is. Batter my heart, three-person God. As yet but knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend, that I may rise and stand, or throw me and bend. There's the word again. We get that b sound in the first three lines. And keep looking. You're forced to break, blow, burn, and make me new. Wow, what a a wonderful way of using alliteration and just weaving this together. And then he keeps going. I like an usurped town to another do labor to admit you, but oh, to no end. And we have the but again in here. And then he gets back into the B sound later on here in the poem. But am betrothed unto your enemy. Divorce me, untie, or break that knot again. So beautiful. So we see a heavy emphasis on the B here, and again a heavy emphasis on the B later on in this poem. And we're tying the poem together with the B sound, okay? So, just an amazing work of art here. Let's take a look at some other elements of alliteration. I'm just kind of looking through, so pardon me while I yeah, let's look at the M sound. Okay? So we see this throughout. So batter my heart, my heart, three-person God for you, as yet but knock, breathe, shine, and seek to mend, that I may rise and stand, o'erthrow me and bend. You're forced to break, blow, burn, and make me new. So right here in the first, this first 4 lines, we see the repetition of the B and the repetition of the M sound. And I think one thing that's really neat about this is that it strikes a difference. B is really tough. Is much softer. So it breaks up the poem and sort of brings together this dichotomy, this element of tension. So, and that's something that we do with sounds, is we create what's called tone or mood. And the choices that we make in the sounds that we're using creates a different mood. So when we see the B sound, it makes it really hard, like a tough tone or a tough mood to this poem. Batter, burn, breathe, break, blow, all these things, bend. But then we have the M sound sort of breaking it up. Batter my heart. Batter my heart. Break, breathe, shine, seek to mend, that I may rise and stand, or throw me and bend, right? So what is this saying? Just in the sounds, we're saying that we need God to break us. We need God to captivate us. We need him to overthrow us, these violent tensions. But the beauty, there's a beauty to it. There's a soft beauty to it, right? Batter my heart so it can be mended to you. I mean, look at that. Just with alliteration, we see this. So let's keep going with that M sound. Labor to admit you, but oh, to no end. Reason your viceroy and me. So we see the me in here. Me should defend and proves weak and true. Let's see. Betrothed, you divorce me. So again, divorce, that's a hard word. Divorce me. Untie or break that knot again. Take me to you. Imprison me. For I, except you enthrall me, never shall be free, nor ever chaste except you ravish me. This is so neat, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit later, but there's just a heavy emphasis, a repetition on the word me down here, okay? And we see that, and we're going to talk about the importance of repeating words. Right now we're going to talk about the importance of repeating sounds, but I just want to point out something to you. In this repetition, we end with the word me. What's the last line of the first, or what's the last word of the first line? Is you. So we start with you, and we get to me. I think there's just so many beautiful things happening in this poem, and you may ask yourself, well, did he really intend? This seems so complicated. Did he think all of this through? Did he say, I'm gonna do this b sound and break it up with this m sound? Well, maybe he conscientiously thought about that. I think as we start writing, we conscientiously think about using alliteration in different techniques like this. So we start off with hey, I'm just going to repeat sounds, but then it becomes, if I repeat this sound and then I repeat this sound, it creates a tension, it breaks things up. We do that, and then I think you'll find that you're just going to do it subconsciously. You're going to be writing, and you're going to be such a wordsmith, such a word artist, that you bring these together. So I hope we have learned something from William Wordsworth and John Donne, who have taught us that alliteration is a powerful tool. It can create a tone or a mood to our poem. It can create tension in our poem. And it also brings together ideas by the repetition of the beginning sounds of words. Good luck on your assignment. Remember, don't rush through it. There are activities, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, more of an expert, experienced writer, but it's all about getting practice using alliteration to give that sound repetition and make our poetry or our writing even so effective.